Well, first of all, I'd like to say good afternoon, everybody. Let you know how glad I am about the Blexit movement that is happening in this country. It's caught on like a wildfire. I'm just very thankful. Blexit. So for those of you who don't know what Blexit is, and I know a lot of folks don't know what Blexit is because it's only been a few months. Blexit, well, it's a spin and a turn off of the term Brexit that happened about 3 years ago, whereas not really the UK, but at least the country of England or Britain wants to break away from the European Union, so they called it Brexit. Well, there's a new movement that I'm very excited about called Blexit, Blexit, Blexit. And Blexit is hopefully the tearing and ripping away of, watch this, Blexit, BL, right? Blacks, B for blacks, and L for Latinos, breaking away and hopefully being ripped away from the Democrat Party. And if that continues to happen, that's just incredible. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. If that continues to happen, and that would just be unbelievable. So, the interesting thing about it is it's not just blacks and Latinos that are escaping the Democrat Party, because I got a story of a young liberal, of at least one young liberal that I know of, and I'm sure there are thousands all across the country that are being informed and reinformed and leaving the Democrat Party in droves. But I personally know of a gentleman, young white man, who is just ripping and running in the other direction from the Democrat Party. But let me tell you my story. I turned this on because I wanted to tell you what my story is of my Brexit story. Blexit story. Black man having being ripped away from the Democrat Party, and I mean that Democrat. I might say Democrat because that's pretty much what it is. Dumb old crack. And sometimes I call it the Democrat Party. But here's my story. So, I'm in my mid to late 40s. And of course, I'm an African American. You can see that, or an American of African descent, or really just an American of African descent, mostly African descent. And so back in the 80s, when I was first allowed to vote, I remember sitting around my neighborhood, and these folks are coming around the neighborhood registering people to vote. And so I had never voted before. I had learned about it in school, but I didn't know much about it. This was in the late 80s, maybe 80, 88, 89, around the time Bill Clinton was running for president. I think he won in 88. So it must have been 87. 86 or 87, because I believe I voted for Bill Clinton at that time. And so they were coming around registering people to vote, and they came up to me and they said, "Young man, are you registered to vote?" I said, "No, I know what it is, but I'm not registered to vote." "Are you planning to vote?" I guess." And said, "Well, you got to register to vote. Let me register you to vote." So we start filling out the card. We're filling out the paper. And while we're registering to vote, the young lady asked me, I still remember the date, it's a white lady, and she asked me, she said, "Well, are you going to be Democrat or Republican?" I didn't know. I said, "Well, I don't know. What's the difference? And what she said to me was, well, you don't want to be Republican. I said, oh, really? Well, what's that? So she proceeded to tell me that Republicans were white people, normally rich white people, who were racist, full of hate, and all they cared about is rich white people and keeping rich white people richer and keeping the poor man poor and keeping the black man down. So, but the Democrats, they love all people. They love poor people. They're trying to help the poor people out. They put programs that help poor people, and they love black people and so forth and so on. And so I'm listening to this. I'm about 16 or 17 years old. I don't know any better. And I'm listening to her. And she says, so which one would you rather be? Well, based off of what she had just explained to me for the last 3 or 4 minutes about the difference between the two parties, I decided I wanted to be a Democrat. My family never really talked politics. In fact, I didn't even have a father in my home. So even if he did talk politics, I didn't know what he thought because my father wasn't around. My mom never got real deep into politics. My church never talked politics. So I just was kind of told that the best party for black people was the Democrat Party. This was in the late 80s. And so she signed me up and registered me for, to be a Democrat. And that was cool. So time to vote come around, vote for Bill Clinton. And if you don't know what the issues are, just vote every time you see a D, or every time you see Democrat, or every time somebody's black. Always vote Democrat. Always vote for the Democrat cause, the Democrat ticket, and always vote for the black person or the Democrat. So I didn't really know what the issues were. I just was told to always vote Democrat. Fast forward a few years, about maybe 8 years later, brings us into the mid to late 90s. I had gotten a job working as a water treatment technician. Of course, even now, 2019, I'm still a water treatment technician. So this has been quite some time ago. You figure this is 2019, 97 was 22 years ago. Let's say about 97, maybe 96. Now, I had been told to vote Democrat, but I didn't know the whole time I was actually a conservative. The whole time I was actually a conservative. But I didn't know I was a conservative. I was told to vote Democrat. Late 90s, I'm in my work truck because I'm a technician, water treatment technician. I'm riding down the road and I decided to flip through the stations to see what was on. And two of my favorite radio shows, I'm going to just stick with the one radio show that I really used to love listening to in the afternoon, was a lady named Janet Parshall. And Janet Parshall still comes on the radio. And I think she still comes on that very station in the Northern Virginia, Maryland, DC, and sometimes you can get in Baltimore area. And I began to listen to her show. I absolutely loved her show. I loved it to pieces. I loved her show. Anybody know Janet Parshall? Hey, tell her I said hi. You were the one that converted me and made me to realize that I was really a conservative. But I would listen to her show. And her show, I actually would agree with everything that she said. And her show was political. So at several election cycles at this point, I had always been voting Democrat because I had been told to vote Democrat. I didn't know any better. So the abortion issue came up on her show. I never believed in abortion, but I was never really deep into politics. And I was beginning to listen to her and people calling on her show talking about the abortion issue. I began to realize, wait a minute, I don't agree with Democrats on that point. I've been voting Democrat all this time, and I don't even agree with them. Okay. Then, of course, there was the issue of taxes. And of course, by this time, I'm married with kids, and I'm trying to keep all the money I got. And I'm not making that much. Well, I guess I was making okay, but I wasn't making that much. I care about taxes. And furthermore, not only do I care how much they tax us, I actually care where my taxes go. I don't want my taxes going to causes that I don't agree with. So in that issue, I was conservative. So that's two issues. The situation came along back in the late 90s with Elian Gonzalez. And I clearly remember the situation. I was actually on Andrews Air Force Base. I was leaving Andrews Air Force Base as they were bringing him in, Elian Gonzalez. And I remember what I thought about that issue. And even back in the 90s, we were talking about immigration. Mid to late 90s, we were talking about immigration. I knew what I believed about immigration. And let me tell you, friends, what conservatives, as a conservative, having been a conservative for 25 years, at 2019, mid 90s, 25 years, I am an avowed conservative, and I know what conservatism is. Let me tell you, as a conservative, what conservatives think about immigration. Most of us have in fact, I've never met a conservative that has any problem with immigration. But not only do we not have a problem with immigration, what we prefer is that not only do you migrate to this country, we want you to migrate here, particularly if you're going to be productive. But we want you to migrate legally. Whatever the legal parameters and the legal paperwork that you need to get in order, we prefer that you conform to the laws and the parameters and the process that's already in place. That's what conservatives believe. We also believe that there need to be a process such that we fully vet the folks who are trying to come into this country, so that we understand that we're letting folks into the country who mean to do good by Americans. Plain and simple. That's what conservatives believe on immigration. Another thing about conservatism that I begin to realize, wait a minute, I'm voting for Democrats when all the time I'm a conservative. So I believed in the right for a person, particularly a family man, to be able to defend himself, his property, and his family, even if it means using a weapon. That's what conservatives believe. It's not that conservatives want to own guns because they want to shoot people, but we just believe that the government should protect our freedoms, particularly the ones that's laid out in the Constitution already. Hey, another thing is that we believed, as I had already believed, because I was a born again Christian even back in the 90s. I became a born again Christian in the 80s. But, born again Christians and conservatives, no matter how you slice it, we always believe in religious freedom, because not only is it laid out for us in the Constitution, and this country was founded on the very concept of religious freedom. That was the reason why the first people began to come here, breaking away from religious freedom and government tyranny in England, or in Europe, I should say. But there is one side that always wants to shut the mouths and inhibit religious action and the promotion of religious ideology. Even if you're not promoting religious ideology, if you can just speak the truth about what it is that you believe philosophically and religiously and theologically, there is one side, and it's not the conservatives, it's the liberals, that always want to shut the mouths and inhibit religious freedom. Maybe I'll do a video one day on the separation of church and state. The separation of church and state never had anything to do with inhibiting religious freedom. But liberals always want to inhibit religious freedom. So as I begin to get knowledge and to understand history and to understand what was happening with liberalism and with the Democrat Party or the Democrat Party, I begin to realize, wait a minute, I'm voting for these folks and they are actually against everything that I believe in. I believe in free market. And particularly, you say I'm one that I like history. So as I begin to look into the history of what was going on in the country, particularly the founding of the Republican Party. In fact, the actual beginning of the Republican Party in the 1850s, when it was first started, it was founded on the very basis that all men should be created fairly and equally, including black people. That is the founding of the Republican Party. And to this day, I'm a conservative, not necessarily Republican, but still, as a rule, that is a part of the Republican platform, that all men be treated fair and equal and be given a fair shake, regardless of race. So, I was a family man. I got married at 20. Sorry, I got married at 21. And I got married at 20. No, I got married at 20. Yes, I got married at 20, and I'm still married to the same lady. Well, that's conservatism. I believed that even in my teens and 20s, that one man should marry one woman and do everything in their power to stay together for life. That's conservative. That's a conservative ideology, is that I should love my wife and treat her as best I can, learning how she is, and treat her as best I can. And she also do the same for me, and we need to work our marriage out. That's conservatism. I believed in personal responsibility. I just have some dignity and some pride in the fact of understanding that I can educate myself, or I can go get educated, and I can put my talents and my tools in the workplace, and I can make money as long as I'm healthy enough to do so. That's conservatism. I should be able to go out and make money and take personal responsibility for myself and for my family, and whatever happens to me in life happens because of my decisions. So if I don't work hard, if I don't work smart, I won't achieve as much as the person who works harder or smarter or longer. If I sit around and wait for the government to take care of me and to do for me, then of course, hey, I won't achieve as much. So, as I begin to realize these things that hey, I believe in, I really actually believed in conservative ideology, but I was voting Democrat. And I noticed in all of these things, I know a lot of conservatives. The vast majority, in fact, I don't think any conservative that I know is racist. I don't think any conservative that I know hates women. I don't know any conservative that I know that don't like immigration. I don't know any conservative that wants to hold anybody down or hold anybody back. Every conservative I know, I know dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens, of conservatives. None of us believe in the things that the news would tell you that we believe in. The CNN, that's the Clown News Network, the Communist News Network, PMS NBC, as I like to call it, PMS NBC. And all of your alphabet networks who will paint the narrative for you that tell you conservatives are racist and they're wicked and they're evil and all of that stuff. That just hasn't been my experience. It's all lies. And you're looking here at a black conservative, and I've been conservative for 25 years. All of my adult life, I've always been a conservative. And I'm not racist, I'm not misogynistic, I'm not homophobic, or maybe I should say I'm not afraid of homophobic. I believe in the sanctity of all human life. I believe a woman has a right to choose, to be responsible with her body. I believe a woman has a right to choose to not be indiscriminate and not be irresponsible with her sexuality. And because I believe in the sanctity of life, I also believe that the woman has a right to be abstinent and to say no to irresponsibility. I also believe that they have a right to use condoms. But no one has a right to take anyone else's life. Plain and simple. This video is running kind of long. I did want to share that with you about my Blexit experience, and that's a part of it. I'm going to do another video as to why you should have a Blexit experience as a Black or African American or Latino or even a young white liberal. You should escape and get away from the Democrat Party. Let me share one more thing with you, friends, that if Blacks and Latinos leave the Democrat Party, they will never win another major federal level government election in this country if Blacks and Latinos leave. Plain and simple, because all they do is pander to Blacks and Latinos. And that's what keeps them in power, because they pander to Blacks, Latinos, homosexuals, women, and socialists. They pander, and that's what keeps them in power. And they're going to hate this video if they ever see it. Any liberal that sees this video is going to hate it, plain and simple. But I'm fine with that, because remember, I've been a conservative for 25 years or longer. So I know how liberals think, and I know how conservatives think. So you're hearing it from a conservative. We're not racist. I'm not racist. None of my black friends who are conservatives are not racist. None of us are racist. No hate, no misogyny, no afraid of immigrants and afraid of homosexuals and all of that. All of that, I don't, it's coming from, I hate to say this, but fake news. Plain and simple, fake news. Hey, look, have your own Blexit experience in the near future, and let's continue to work together to make America great again. Hey, the statistics are turning around, and America is becoming greater than it was as recent as 3 or 4 years ago. It's way better. Plain and simple. Let's continue to make America great again, and let's keep this Blexit ball rolling.